We have a panel discussion on compute and qubits' role in AI evolution. May I invite the moderator, Ms. Reena Dayal, founder, CEO, Quantum Ecosystems and Technology, Council of India. She is technology leader and an innovation management and ecosystem expert. She is on the Global Futures Council at the World Economic Forum, on the steering committee of IEEE Quantum Initiative, and on consultative committees and task force of quantum constituted at the state and center level in India. Please give a huge round of applause and let's welcome Ms. Reena Dayal. Joining her, may I invite Mr. Indraneel Chakravarti, Associate Professor, CQST III IIT Hyderabad. His areas of research interest are quantum information, quantum foundation, quantum cryptography, communication and networks. Before joining IIIT Hyderabad, he was a postdoctoral fellow at Institute of Physics, Bhubaneswar. May I also invite Mr. Kapil Jaiswal, CTO, Quantum AI Global. Mr. Kapil is a tech leader who comes with an experience in InfoSec, AI and ML quantum, space technologies, and IT. He has spearheaded national digital transformation initiatives in strategic sphere. He was also offered prestigious role of Director, Technology, UIDAI, National Data Centers. And I would now like to invite Mr. Sambit Sahu, VP Silicon Design, Ola Krutrim, to please join us on stage. He's a leading silicon products focusing on AI, automotive, and edge. Previously, he has worked with Intel, Qualcomm, Sun Microsystems, among other organizations. He led a 2,400 plus end-to-end global engineering teams to deliver server edge AI client products worth $7 billion revenue per year. He has also been the site lead of Qualcomm Design Center in India. Over to you.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, everybody. And I saw the MC hesitate a bit before looking at what the next panel was, and I was wondering whether it was because it was quantum. So I'm going to first ask everyone and say, how many of you have heard of quantum and understand to some level the kind of impact it's going to make in the industry? Please raise your hands. That's a very small number. Around 7 or 8 people have put up their hands. How many of you have no idea what quantum technology is all about? That's also just 6 or 7 hands. What about the rest? So how many people have some idea of what quantum is? Raise your hands, please. Okay, great.
You should ask how many people know about AI. You'll see everybody raising their hands.
Yeah, I think everybody knows about AI, so I don't need to ask that question. So today we are going to talk about AI and quantum and what does that mean. And I think asking how many people understand quantum gives us a good sense of how we need to make this most useful for the audience, given the number of people understanding it well enough or not understanding it. We will try not to go too deep into the technical details, but before we do that, let me introduce you to what is really happening in quantum in 2 minutes, and before we jump into our discussion with the fellow panelists. So today, worldwide, if you look at the government spend that is happening in this technology called quantum technology, is around 40 billion USD. And this is slated to grow at a very fast rate because just 3 years ago, this number was 20 billion, and this is already doubled. And we are seeing more and more investments coming in from across the world. And this is just the government investment. Large corporates across the world are also investing significantly in this space, not just the technology companies, but also companies in the banking and financial sector, pharmaceutical, healthcare, chemical industry. We started our quantum journey in India through the announcement of the National Quantum Mission, which was done 3 years ago. The entity that I represent, Quantum Ecosystems and Technology Council of India, was set up in 2021, so a little over 3 years ago. But there's a lot of momentum in India. India is investing 1.1 billion USD in the National Quantum Mission, And of course, we have a national AI mission. So there is a structured approach that is happening in India right now. Since most people are very aware of what's happening in the AI space, I think we will now, if I can request the panel, some of my questions would be around how AI and quantum can work together. Because I believe that it's an easier pitch to get people to understand that where do you move on from AI, right? And then see where quantum comes in. So with that context, before we go to quantum, Sambit, may I request you to briefly introduce yourself in terms of your background in AI and quantum, and then talk a little bit of where you're seeing AI being most useful and where are the challenges.
Thank you, Reena. Good afternoon, everyone. And actually, I'm the odd person out here in this panel because my background is semiconductors. But I'm really happy that I'm part of this illustrious panel because anything that we cannot help solve in semiconductors, I'm going to throw those challenges to this illustrious panel, and they can solve in quantum. So my expectations are pretty high with the quantum panelists. So I represent Ola Kutrim, and we are building the AI stack for India and the world, the AI models, the AI software stack, the cloud stack, the infrastructure, and also silicon, which is where I come in. And I've been doing silicon or semiconductors throughout my life, 35 years, been part of many major technology revolutions. But this AI revolution that I see is by far the best and the biggest revolution that I see. And the whole AI revolution is pretty new. It's not even a 6-month-old baby. And next, I would say 30, 40, 50 years, will all be oriented towards AI. And today there are around 70,000 companies worldwide working on AI, building AI, using AI. So any technology company that is not working on AI will be left out very soon. So in terms of AI value, as per market research, the whole generative AI, which is the talk of the town, that is expected to add around $7 trillion, 7 trillion, trillion as a T, to the overall GDP. And even India also, we expect at least $500 billion to add to our GDP over the next few years. So the business value is quite significant, and of course, we have to realize that. And in terms of applications, there are so many applications, people talked about so many applications, so many usages. In the last panel, we talked about how really AI is being used or planned to be used in agriculture. So you can start from anywhere from an intelligent chatbot to your surveillance system, to robotics, to fraud detection, to autonomous driving. I was just reading about that Waymo, which delivers driverless cars, autonomous cars. They have already enabled or delivered around 25 million miles as the driverless agenda. That's a huge, and this all driven by AI. So all the applications, everything is migrated to AI. And right now it's generative AI. Very soon it will be all agentic AI, where there will be intelligent agents who will do your work. Then there will be AGI, which will be more like human-like intelligence. So a lot of evolution happening in AI as we speak. And in terms of challenges, I would say, since this is a new field, very fast evolving field, the challenges are also evolving. Since I do semiconductors and infrastructure, I'll tell you what are the challenges that I face today. So this AI infrastructure is extremely expensive. Now to train a GPT-4 model, the estimates that it took at least $100 million. That's a huge expense. A single high-end AI chip costs around $70,000. that is very, very expensive. Apart from this, there is huge power consumption, huge energy consumption, huge impact on the carbon emission. The AI data centers in the world today, they consume the energy that is drawn by I would say, a mid-sized country. And this energy consumption is increasing exponentially. So we have to figure out how to solve these challenges. The third challenge I see is that the AI largely is now in the data center, in the cloud. We have to figure out how will we bring AI to the end consumer, to the edge devices like your smartphones, your smartwatches, your IoTs. So there's a lot of work happening in edge AI. Apart from this, there are a lot of other challenges about security, privacy, responsible AI, sustainability. So tons and tons of problems, but we're in a good state because together we'll have to solve all these problems.
Thank you. So what I understand is that some of the challenges that are there largely on the infrastructure cost, the power cost, and then the opportunity cost in certain aspects of being able to do certain solutions with the huge amount of investment that is required and so on. So Kapil, over to you. Please do introduce yourself briefly in terms of your role in quantum and AI. And then can you go through these challenges and tell us if there are certain ways that quantum can help solve some of the challenges, if not all?
Thank you, Reena, and a very good afternoon to everyone. So I'm a ex-government technocrat who worked in the government for 25 years, and that time I was working with a lot of startups and Indian deep tech companies. So at a certain stage, I have taken a plunge, moved out, and I'm a CTO with a company called Quantum AI Global. My previous role was Director of Research InfoSec, where I worked with a large team of people who are working into research of the infosecurity domain and applicability of the AI and ML into it. Okay. Now, coming on to the problem statement which Reena is asking me to address, where does the quantum can help? Okay. So, as a humanity, as a human beings with all this power available to us into our supercomputers, data centers, have we solved all our problems? Actually, no. I'll tell you a very simple problem. If I am a company who is running 100 marketing executive or business development or salespersons, I have to send them to 100 different locations. I have to book flights. I want to have a most optimized routes for that. Even with the best of the supercomputers today, that problem cannot be solved. And in the academic circle, it's known as a traveling salesman's problem. That is still an unsolved problem. All of us are doing the solving problems suboptimally. Similarly, say a few days back in the US, suddenly there was some issue with their airline ticketing system. For around half a day, the ticketing systems all over the country went bad. As a well-oiled machine, the complete ecosystem of air operations, starting from your operations of the airports, the flights, the refueling, the people who are handling the baggage, everything is a well-oiled machine. But when a disruption happens, the complete thing stops. And now when it starts again, there are a lot of inefficiencies and it takes a lot of amount of time to reach back that optimal level. Can we solve that problem? Yes, that problem also cannot be solved with today's supercomputers. So there is a class of problems which requires the computation powers beyond the capability of the supercomputers today. Okay. Now look at the quantum. Quantum can solve this problem, some of the problems, not all. But quantum processing is a natural progression. And all of us in our lifetime have seen this progression in a certain other form. If we simply correlate it to, we had the PCs with only the CPUs and they were working fine till the time GPUs came up and we realized GPUs can do a lot of more things. It can parallelize the processes, it can take a certain class of problems. Again, GPU doesn't solve everything, but it does solves few problems and it solves them very, very fast and very accurately. Quantum is the next level of natural progression in the same direction, We will have the quantum processing units, which will sit along probably with the data center, may not come down to our end devices so early, next 10 years or so, future nobody knows, but it's a natural progression. A class of problem which CPU and GPU can't solve combined today, those are the problems, some subset of that will be solved when the computers come in. So that's the space we are looking at. It's a kind of a natural progression and we'll reach there.
Sure. So I think that's a great example of how, complexity, problems with certain complexity can be solved by quantum. I think one of the things which I may want to add is that when you look at a scalable quantum computer, and we don't have one today, we have quantum with a few hundred qubits, computers that are available, but technology is rapidly advancing. So when we do have a scalable quantum computer, and let's say we talk about 1,000 qubits, just to give you a sense, if you have 1,000 bits, how much data can you store in it? You all know that, right? 2 to the power 1,000? On the other hand, if you had 1,000 qubits, the number of units of data that you could store there is actually larger than the number of stars in the known galaxy. So that's because every possible state can store all the possible values at the same time. So which kind of feels like a weird science, and we don't want to go into the science right now, but the exponential capacity that comes with quantum is very different from what we see, let's say, even in a supercomputer today. So when we talk about power and we talk about, how do you scale up infrastructure, we are hoping that as quantum evolves, we'll be able to have smaller quantum computers with a certain number of qubits, which will be equivalent to these large data centers where you are doing, spending a lot of $100 million worth and using a lot of power and so on. So it's important that if you're in technology, you should be following this technology to understand what you need to do in your company as you move forward, and when do you need to start that journey. Now coming back to the fact that quantum is an evolving technology, and it is very closely tied to the science and the evolution in scientific research that is happening. So with that context, Professor Indranil, if you can run us through what is happening in the research field at the cusp of AI and quantum, and what are you expecting out of that space?
Thank you, Rina, and thank you, Kapil and Rina, for giving a brief kind of an overview of what are the challenges associated with quantum and what are the advantages that we are going to get over quantum. So I'm really thankful that HISA had organized this kind of a meeting, and also especially these panel discussions where we are having these topics like AI and quantum. And I feel that this is one of the most relevant topic that we should discuss. And we have people from AI, we have Sambitji from AI, and there are some kind of discussions should happen in this topic, because these particular two fields are actually trying to getting closer together. So I will give you a little bit of idea how things are on the AI and the quantum side. The research is progressing, and they are actually taking help of each other in doing this. I am a purely quantum person, and my all backgrounds have been on quantum. I mostly work on quantum networks theory and quantum communication aspects and the theoretical aspects. Like I do try to characterize what is resource for communication. For example, what kind of quantum states will be used as a network or resource for communication. This is one of my domain. I also work in the area of quantum secret sharing of quantum cryptography aspect. So one thing, what Rina has said is very fundamentally true, that quantum has revolutionized the way we process information. Because we are leveraging out the notion of 0-1 bits to a superposition of kind of states which will capture so much of information at a time. So the research that is happening in quantum in various directions. For example, AI has a lot of interface with this kind of research. One way to understand how AI is interfacing with quantum is AI for quantum. How AI can help in a quantum process to know things more better and to give more predictability in that device. For example, there are two aspects associated with it. One is a purely theoretical aspect and another is a purely application aspect. So, for example, in case of quantum, there is a very interesting concept called measurement. By measuring, we get to know information. Now, whenever we are doing measuring, these AI methods like neural network methods and other deep learning methods, machine learning methods, they are interpreting these measurement results and they are predicting about the measurement outcomes. So how they are helping in this interpreting these measurement results? They are able to tell you about new quantum protocol. They are able to tell you about the tomography of the quantum state, which is something is very difficult to obtain within doing the quantum state tomography. There is a concept called quantum state tomography, which I am not going in details. But this process is fundamentally changed by the role of how AI is helping quantum. So these data, so they are able to train and try to understand the entanglement and separability problem in quantum domain. They are also trying to able to understand which states are being useful resources for quantum. And predicting those kind of states. And this is one aspect where AI is actually helping quantum. And the second part is that quantum machine learning itself is becoming a very important area of research. For example, the algorithms that we are designing, people are designing, they are leveraging out the quantum effects and trying to use more more powerful ML algorithms, which has a very important potential applications in the sensing, in drug discovery, and many other domains.
Sure, I think as more research is happening, like you said, more algorithms are being discovered to solve specific problems in different domains. And one of the problems that I am because I heard a lot of healthcare related conversations in the morning and some banking financial services. So one use case that I wanted to share is that when it comes to drug discovery, and this is one of the more potent use cases for quantum and AI working together. We talk about the cycle time that it takes to get a drug to the market. And of course, there is a lot of time that is spent in clinical trials, but before that, there is time spent on identifying the right molecule for the drug, and which takes a fair amount of time. Using quantum simulations, it is possible to actually simulate molecules and understand the impact that they're likely to make. Along with the help of AI, there are solutions that are getting devised today that can run all these simulations and zero down on certain molecules which are supposed to be more relevant target molecules, saving all the time that is done in doing actual tests for the right candidate molecule. So I think, given the audience, I thought that this particular example might be very useful. Moving on from there, Kapil, if you can share another example where AI and quantum are working together and accelerating progress, maybe in the banking financial services sector or the chemical industry, that will be great. Yeah.
Okay, so as Rina brought out, we should not look at the quantum and AI as a separate technologies. The way I look at it, they are the complementary technology where improvement in one accelerates the other. Okay, so just give you a basic example. Whenever you want to do something on the quantum computers, you have to design a quantum circuit, which takes a lot of time and effort. So the work which is happening now is people are even trying to do using LLM also. Can AI help design the quantum circuits? Okay, so you take the help of AI and design the quantum circuits. And that quantum circuit is actually designed to solve the problem of data set generated by the AI. So this is kind of a self-propelling architecture which will emerge. Multiple other places where the AI can come in along with the quantum. So quantum can solve few classes of problem. First, as Rina again discussed, and the team today discussed in the morning also, drug discovery. Drug discovery is basically a simulation problem of a high dimensionality, okay, where you have to try number of combinations of molecules and see which one works, okay. So that's kind of problem which quantum solves good. But once you have a millions of combinations, which one to solve first, okay? It's like a classical search problem in the classical computer science. How do I traverse my unstructured database, unstructured data for efficient search? Where the AI comes into play. So quantum helps to faster the process of different combinations. AI helps it to steer that process to reach there faster. Combined, they make drug discovery much, much easier and cost efficient. And basically the way the earlier team was talking about drug discovery, they're looking at 10 to 9 years, and they do not want only 3 months kind of a change into that. They're looking for years kind of change. So that is where the potential of the quantum into the drug discovery and the potential of quantum and AI in the drug discovery is. So that's one use case. The second use case which we want to discuss, probably in the financial sector, or we'll say in the financial security space, where you want to do a fraudulent detection, you want to do it early. And what happens today is all this malwares which are created, they are polymorphic, they evolve as they spread. The core team of it develops it somewhere, sells it to multiple users. You start seeing its, I'll say, its manifestation in the all over the world at multiple places. If you detect at one place correctly, the rest of the world can be told how to address this. But these malwares change. They are not evolving. Their structures in one place it may happen, manifest separately. In another place it will manifest slightly differently. So the classic pattern recognition algorithm matching doesn't work. Here in this case, there are some work which is happening which goes into the hyper GNN, hyper graph neural networks, which tries to do the learning at multiple places, wherever the malwares are being detected. But the amount of high dimensionality data that is generated and which has a cost to be correlated at one place, where the quantum computers come in. So already the research work is on these places, that how this polymorphic malware to be detected and its outbreak to be identified and contained by issuing the correct patches matching to these. So these are so one of the problems set. The part of that problem, once you get the learning from the multiple hyper GNNs, you cannot solve it with the today's say supercomputers. You need a quantum computers kind of a machine which can solve this high dimensionality data problem. Third, another very interesting example, all of LLM is the kind of the flavor of the season for last year and this year. One very basic thing about the LLMs is they give you the good answer, reasonably good answer. They don't give you the best answer, okay? We had a certain faith on, say, Google ranking system that it gives you the best web page. LLMs don't do that. LLMs gives you reasonably good answer which you find palpable, okay, it seems good. But is it the best answer? No. Can this problem be solved by the quantum computers? This is a non-convex optimization problem in the mathematical domain where, depending on where you start your search in the LLM, you will get an answer. But is it the best answer? That's not there. But with the quantum optimization on top of LLMs, actually you can guarantee that theoretically and practically you can guarantee that answer which is coming out of this LLM is the best answer, not the average one. So these are the 3-4 use cases which I think which have the future in this domain.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
I'm going to pivot a bit on the questions and for example, Sambit, if you could tell us that given that you were part of this panel and you came from AI and we had this great conversation on quantum even before this as we were preparing for the panel, and I heard you talk about what you want to do next on this space. So first of all, can you say, as a senior person in your company who is now looking at quantum, what is it that you would want? And because that would be a good reference for many people in the audience. What is it that you would want and what would you be looking for?
So, I think the big problem that we solve in AI, which I shared, is we have to really solve the cost problem. Okay? And DeepSeek has already shown that the cost problems can get better. Okay? And again, AI is also evolving. So, and the overall AI cost problem, we can't look at it one-dimensional. It has to be looked at multi-dimensional. The hardware, the software, the algorithms, the technologies, the data center, everything has to be looked at it holistically. So if quantum can play a role in solving the cost structure, like how did AI evolve? In the past, there was like CPU and general purpose computing, and suddenly we retargeted GPUs to do the AI. Okay. So similarly, whatever problems we are facing in AI in terms of cost, power, if quantum can coexist with our CPUs and GPUs, like a hybrid computing, I think that will be a big help that quantum can provide.
Right.
So that's one thing. The second thing is how do we build the next generation data centers? Because the next generation data centers are very different from the traditional, in terms of power distribution, networking, security, privacy, cooling technologies, everything. So again, I'm not an expert in quantum, but if the quantum people can really look at how do we get the next generation data center at the right cost price, at the right amount of sustainability, I think that will be a huge benefit.
Right. I think the way I would like to approach this is, for the first part, if I can talk a little bit, and then I'm going to request Kapil to talk about the next generation data center, especially from the security perspective. So the first part where you talked about a hybrid solution. So today there are solutions which are a combination of HPC and quantum accelerators. These are like FPGA-based quantum devices which are combined with HPC to actually give you an environment which is faster and also doing certain computations in the FPGA itself, which are quantum computations. So that creates an environment which is a hybrid environment and gives you advantages of AI running on that data center along with quantum speed up, right? So that is something which is no longer just theory. It is actually running in a few places across the world. And there are conversations happening in India. CDAC is actually working, CDAC from the Government of India, the public sector company, is actually working towards a similar solution. Since you're in Bangalore, an opportunity is there to partner with them.
Very much. Just want to interrupt you. I would love to try it out. And this could be the great aha moment that we can create out of India of how we marry AI and quantum to solve some of the AI problems.
And the reason why we are discussing it on stage is because that's one thing, anybody running big data centers and looking at additional solutions which can give you more cost optimized and more accelerated performance, then you should be looking at hybrid solutions. And there are entities in India that actually are working towards that, so there's an opportunity to partner on that front. Now coming to the second part, which is a very critical part, I think in the discussion in the last panel, there was a mention about cybersecurity will be impacted by quantum because that is going to happen. So I'm going to first request Professor Indranil, because he's been working in that space, to describe what the problem is. And then I'm going to request Kapil to talk about the solutions. Yeah.
So yeah, in the last panel, it was true that one of the major threat is quantum. So one thing is that, for example, this if you have this RSA crypto systems, if you have a quantum computer, it can at least theoretically it is possible to break that crypto system. There are couple of challenges associated with the introduction of quantum in the quantum processor, basic quantum processor to your system. And I would like to add 3 points. One is this, how to overcome this challenge. There had been researches that are going out on post-quantum cryptography. So post-quantum cryptography is a kind of a solution where they try to circumvent these quantum attacks. So this is one way to address the solution. Another way to address the solution, you make an entirely quantum crypto system. So a quantum crypto system is something fundamentally different from what is we are having a public key-based crypto systems or other ADS or DS. So it is not a mathematical problem. Those are mathematical problem, and we have a very strong function to protect your input. But in quantum cryptography, it is not a mathematical problem, it's a physical problem. The systems will collapse if you try to interpret the message. In a very naive sense, I am telling that. The system will collapse. So one way to circumvent this particular challenge that can arise because of you are now having quantum processor at your hand and you can have access to this crypto system, is to change your whole entire crypto system to a quantum based crypto system. And I just want to, before passing on the mic to Kapil, I just want to add what Sambit was asking. So one particular interesting point that struck my mind is that whatever the protocols right now running, what Reena had mentioned, whatever the protocols that now running in quantum, they are all hybrids. We need classical channels. Even from my domain of work, when I see the transfer of information, qubits, they cannot happen without a classical channel. So nothing is, the entire system is never going to be a kind of a quantum jump from classical to quantum. So everything is going through hybrid system. Yeah, that's.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think that's a good, important point, that it's not as if quantum computing is going to replace classical computing, because to add 2 plus 2 together and get an answer of 4, you still need a classical computer. The quantum computer will give you a probabilistic answer, so you might get after few rounds 3.99999, but not a 4, right? So with that, over to you, Kapil.
Yeah. So coming on to this problem of quantum challenge coming from the likely advancement in the quantum computing technology, which some people say maybe 5 years down the line, and we are like earlier we had a Y2K day, when they say, people said in 2000 all the computers will stop. So people talk about a Q day coming into similar kind of a setup. That day the quantum computers become so powerful that your existing RSA public-private crypto systems become susceptible or vulnerable to that. So how do you solve? As Dr. Indranil brought out, you can go fully quantum hardware, or there are some mathematical research happening. Fully going quantum hardware will not be feasible for everybody at the user end, yes, but the strategic level, the national backbone level, people will switch to the hardware quantum side. But for the normal user, end user, people who are on the internet, the algorithmic based approach with the post-quantum cryptography is the way forward. Now, some portion of that has been now standardized by the NIST for all over the world, and that's giving some amount of confidence to people that develop your migration strategy from the present crypto stack to the next one. However, that journey is not going to be easy. What NIST has done, so there's a full tech stack of cryptography. It has just changed the 2 levels down below. I will say out of 10. Rest 8 are still open. So now the future, the way it is for the quantum security, is it is going to be a future where you are continuously upgrading. It's not going to be one time I flip the switch, I am quantum safe in future. It's not going to happen. The cryptography is going to attain emitter role. there will be a continuous monitoring and responsive migration strategies coming up as the field evolve. And most likely, the way you have today the CISO and other people in the bigger organization, we are going to see some chief cryptographic officers also coming up as a positions, because that is how it is going to work out. Implementation of this migration strategy is non-trivial, requires very deeper understanding of the complete architecture and design of that company's or the enterprise IT infrastructure footprint, both on premise and both on cloud. With these kind of a complexity, so there's going to be a challenge, and which has to be addressed by the, I will say, a rigorous effort and concentrated effort to evolve along with the development in the quantum computers.
Thank you for that, and I see that time's up. So what we are going to wrap up. But before we do that, I just wanted to say this to you, that talking about quantum actually should start by giving you the basics and saying what is it all about and what can it do. But our attempt today was to bring you a flavor of what happens, how can AI and quantum augment each other. But based on today's discussion, I'm going to be talking to the HiCR team to see if we can, as QATCI, partner and bring you, for those people who are interested in knowing more about quantum, because QATCI is headquartered in Hyderabad as well. So we can probably get you more information, more details as we move forward. I hope the session was at least useful enough to give you some flavor of what quantum can make possible. And if your curiosity is piqued, then you always have an opportunity to understand more. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the panelists as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reena, and thank you, panelists. I would like to request past President HiCR, Mr. Bharani Kumar Arol, to please come and felicitate the moderator and the panelists. Can we please have the mementos? The mementos are presented by HiCR and ICICI Bank. Thank you so much for being with us here today, sir. Can we please have some huge round of applause for the panelists? Thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Indraneel. Thank you, Mr. Jaiswal, for joining us today. Can we have some huge round of applause? Thank you. Thank you so much, Reena, for moderating this panel.